Ladies and gentlemen, listeners, lovers, and friends, welcome back to the ProdCast with Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. I am your host of episode 2, Jim Fogarty. Thank you for coming back if you listened to the first episode. Our sponsorship in the beginning, because we had to kind of do some bookkeeping thing, was a little bit long. We apologize. Dad, I listened to you. This sponsorship section will be shorter. Our next guest 2 of the podcast, we are super pumped to bring you. He is a very, very interesting gentleman. He is a former combat vet that overcame alcohol addiction. He turned his life around after a stretch in a Pennsylvania Supermax. It's an open, gritty, honest tale of inspiration and redemption. Before we get to it, though, we gotta tell you that today the ProdCast is brought to you by a very interesting product that can help you biohack. Yes, we're still talking about biohacking. I get questions a lot. People are like, hey, man. I don't know, do they say, hey, man? Hey, man. I get questions and they say, Jim, how do you juggle your active lifestyle? You're a business owner, you're into full-time production, you have a marketing agency, you're juggling clients, you're a hands-on father of a very active 6-year-old. You do some community activism. You're on a bunch of volunteer boards. You're training Gracie Jiu-Jitsu as an over 40-year-old multiple times a week. Like, how do you do it? How do you keep your energy and keep everything together? Biohacking, like everyone's like, what is this? Oh, this biohacking. It's a whole bunch of different things, but I use some certain products. Some of those products are found on biohacktomorrow.com that you can check out today. Go to biohacktomorrow.com. One of those products, people are always talking about like energy drinks. I used to be into like a lot of energy drinks, but they delivered like a lot of sugar and a lot of caffeine and like a lot of negative things that made you crash afterwards. And so on biohacktomorrow.com is a product that I use. I'm actually drinking it right now. It provides mental endurance and mental acuity, and it improves your concentration and your memory and both your physical and your mental energy. Kind of improves your mood. Can you hear me? I'm smiling over here. It increases your brain's resilience to stress. It improves your information processing and your attention to details and really helps reduce mental fatigue and brain fog. And it does this all without sugar and without caffeine, if you so choose. They've got some great flavors, dragon fruit and sour cherry and all these other different things. And they also have the stuff that I like. I use the non-caffeinated stuff because I still like to sip on my coffee. Red raspberry and grapefruit is decaffeinated. It tastes great. And this product is called Axio. You can learn about Axio by getting on biohacktomorrow.com, and you can actually buy it right from that site if you so choose. Can't find it in the store. It comes in a box that has 30 servings. They're little like pouches that you can take anywhere with you, tear off, pour into a 16 or 20 ounce bottle of water, shake it up, and you are good to go. It's fantastic. There is no crash. Our next sponsor, for full disclosure, is actually a client of mine, but they are a great client. They have been for years, and they fit into our next guest, and they are Washington Square Healthcare. Washington Square Healthcare is an amazing facility that provides eligible veterans no-cost respite, hospice, short-term or long-term rehab stays, and they allow veterans to save their private pay funds by using their VA benefit. And so they're the only VA service provider in Trumbull County, Ohio. So if you're in Trumbull County, Ohio, and you're a veteran and you don't want to spend your Social Security or whatever it is for your health care, you may be eligible for no-cost treatment and services at Washington Square. They just recently did a totally comprehensive renovation that includes a new lobby and some new features, interior and exterior upgrades. It's a great place. It's run by great people. Their veterans services have increased as of late, and so they're doing really some great work over there. You can find more information at WashingtonSquareHealthcare.com. WashingtonSquareHealthcare.com. Please check them out. Without further ado, let's get our next guest on. I've already given him an introduction. His name is Leo Connelly. Grew up in Briar Hill in Youngstown. Leo, welcome to the ProdCast. 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Our ProdCast guest today has something similar in line in comparison with the once heavyweight champion of the world, Mike Tyson, who was known as the baddest man on the planet. Now, there could be an argument made for that, Leo, but certainly there's an argument to be made, maybe the baddest man in Youngstown. Our good friend who reintroduced, I met Leo a very long time ago when I was a kid, and just in passing. And his presence stuck with me that long. When I was reintroduced to him by Ray Mancini, Ray, walking up to his house, this is a good guy. We talked about, oh, man. And so Ray, also one of the baddest men in Youngstown. Bad in a good way, but you don't want to get in the ring with him. Yeah. I don't want to get in the ring with either one of you guys. Mm-hmm. And Ray you could make an argument that Ray is the baddest man in Youngstown, or Kelly Pavlik, or whoever. There's a lot, Greg, or Jeff Lampkin. You don't want to. I wouldn't want to get in a telephone booth with this guy, okay? And I don't think Ray would either. I don't think anybody would. His heart is as big as his hands, and his hands are huge. He has been an advocate for veterans for a very long time, and recently received the Purple Heart that he's very proud of, and it's a beautiful story, and that's part of the story we're going to talk about today. Leo Connelly, welcome to the show, my friend.
Welcome, Jim, and thank you for that wonderful, warm introduction. And I consider myself a survivor, not a bad guy, but and I've learned how to survive, and that come along with the fighting part is being able to defend yourself, to be able to fight, whether it's your fist or whether it's the issues that I go after every day-to-day issues with veterans and life, and it's just another way of my fighting. But Ray Boom Boom Mancini, I want to take a minute to say what a gentleman, what a great guy.
100%.
And I'm proud to say he has one of his sons is named Leo, so that makes me feel good. I seen him the other day, and I walked up to him and said, "Boy, you look just like that Ray Mancini." but he's a beautiful guy, and his. And the message that he puts out is kind of, I think we're on the same page. We're all set out here to make a difference.
Total positivity. I should have said toughest man.
Yeah.
Baddest. That could have connotations. We'll get to that maybe part of the story a little bit later with some of the. I'll set it up too, just a little bit further background on Leo, because I know a little bit of his story, which is obviously why why we wanted him as a guest today. It's very powerful. He had, like we all have, made some tough decisions and made some mistakes in his life, but the end chapter, we were talking about it in the other room before we started, the end chapter. And his end chapter, man, his beginning, the whole story. So let's get into it with the beginning a little bit, but I want to say this. I thank you for saying that too. Ray's an amazing guy, and I associate Ray. When I think about you, I think about three people. I associate Ray with you, our good friend, Frank Nanicola.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now my mother, because Leo met my mother the other day.
Let me tell you, she's on top. She's fantastic. I can see why you have the personality you have. It's your mother's personality. She's a great woman.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And my mom feels the same way before I was coming in today. So she says, "Who you got today?" I says, "Leo Connelly." "Oh, that Leo." They must have met in October. It was right before the primary election. And she's probably brought him up a half dozen times.
Yeah.
So it's a very short window. But I met Leo we met at Nanicola Wholesale years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember it because I thought, Jesus, that guy, man. I was a little bit of a boxer, when I growing up. Not nothing like the champ Ray, but I go, Jesus, I was kind of scrappy guy. I wouldn't hang with that guy. Do you see? And some of the stock boys, oh, that's Leo. Leo. See the size of that guy's hands? Holy shit, man! He'd mash you. So,
but to get back to what you had said, just before you move on here, life's a book, and you and I talked about it in the other room. And there's good chapters, bad chapters, and where we're at today, we won't let it define my legacy. I've yet to make that chapter, and I'm probably going to write that in years to come. But you're exactly right. You hit right on it as far as the different chapters, and we're going to talk about them all today. I leave nothing undone. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it.
I can't wait.
I'm the guy that created this book, so we'll talk about the book.
The living, breathing document of Leo's legacy.
Yeah.
In the middle of that legacy somewhere, I was reintroduced to Leo. I was working on this documentary about returning combat veterans with traumatic brain injury and PTSD, and it was a very important project. And that's one of the reasons, again, I always associate you with Ray and you guys together. And we were interviewing, traveling across the country, and right in our own backyard. Leo and I live, probably 20 or 30 minutes from another. Yeah. We're broadcasting this from Warren. Leo is in Boardman now.
Yeah, I live in Boardman. Yeah, right off Tippecanoe. Yeah,
grew up in Briar Hill.
Yeah,
right. Grew up in Briar Hill.
Briar Hill guy.
And that's in Youngstown for anyone that's listening nationally or internationally. Leo, we're walking up the thing. Ray says, we're going to interview my friend Leo Connelly. He says, oh, okay. Combat vet, this, that, and the other. I sat down with this guy. We sat down. We set the cameras up. Myself, and I think it was myself and Matt Smith at the time.
Yeah,
Matt lives in Brooklyn now.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
And we sat up, and Leo talked for probably a good hour and a half, 2 hours. We were laughing. We were crying. I was crying, tears, little tears behind the camera, not crying, but it's such an impressive, beautiful story that I felt, and he's helped countless veterans. If one person listens to this podcast today, or would listen to Leo, and make a difference, make a change, make the decision to turn that stuff around like he had. Wow. And his story is so powerful, which we're going to get into right now in the beginning chapter. But that's how we met, and we've been friends over the years since that day.
You want to laugh. I got to share a little story with
for
you.
Sure.
Judge Millich went down to Columbus for, I guess, something for veterans. And he went down there, and your documentary was down. He watched it. So he come back, and he couldn't wait to call me to say, I had to travel all the way to Columbus to see you. And I shared with him that, your production company and Ray, we did the documentary, but he kind of got a kick out of it because he was both happy and sad to think he didn't know anything about it, but he went down there in Columbus, and I forget what the event was, but that documentary was in the event, and he seen it on the screen, and it was good to know, like you touched on, that there's one person that we touched. We touched one life with that documentary.
Yeah.
So I think we did our mission. We completed our mission. That's what we're attempting to do here today. If we can touch one life with this message we're putting out, we're happy campers.
Well, the message you've been putting out has been amazing.
Thank you.
Judge Leo mentioned Judge Millich. That's a guy that's also done just a tremendous amount of positivity in Youngstown. I think that was the first drug court in the
first
state?
Drug court. He's 27 years military. Just a fantastic person, a great family man, and he's a great advocate, has a passion for helping veterans.
Just retired recently, right?
Yeah. Well, I think term limits limited him to forcible retirement.
Sure.
But he still very much has his hand on everything and involved.
Yeah, man, amazing. That's an amazing guy.
Sure.
So, Leo, let's start in we got to the middle chapter. Let's go to the beginning, and I'll hit the broad strokes real quick. You grew up and born in Youngstown, Briar Hill, post World War II.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
1947.
I was born in 1947, and the Briar Hill was strictly all Italians. Back then, not too many spoke English. My parents and grandparents were Sicilian, so that was a different dialect. So that was a strictly Italian area. my grandfather was the barber in Bry Hill, and it was kind of like I had.
What was his name, your grandpa?
Dominic Zizzo.
Dominic Zizzo.
Yeah, and he was the barber there, and you kind of got that family feeling. That's what I grew up with,
The neighborhood.
Yeah, the camaraderie of it was nothing for me to come down and get your mother's groceries and walk up the hill with them and put them in. I as a kid, I don't ever remember us locking our door. Other than the screen door, that was it. There was no lock on the door. It was different times then. But yeah, I'm Bry Hill boy, so I'm very proud of it. The only thing that moved us was the highway.
Yeah.
I tell people we're so tough it took a highway to get us out of there.
And so you, by listening to Leo's name, Connelly, you'd think Irish, right?
Yeah, no, I'm Sicilian all the way. I believe my father. I don't know where that part of it come. I don't know that side of the story, but
Made it change his name somehow.
I think so.
Yeah.
Back then, whenever you come through Ellis Island or wherever you come into America, they give you a new name.
Mm-hmm. Well, so immigrant parents? Were your parents both immigrants or second? They're second generation.
Second generation.
Okay, so your grandparents.
Yeah.
So that was my great grandparents.
Yeah.
Right. They were second, and the other were first. So and I always find that there's a lot of common threads amongst people in this region, where it's like you kind of grew up in this ethnic neighborhood, and obviously migration, and that's how those patterns track. But post World War II, interesting times, simpler times. You graduate from Cheney in 1966, and in 1967,
March of 67. I graduated June of 66, and August 6th of 66, I got drafted and went through basic training and
into the
advanced infantry in the Army. And then March 27th of 67, I landed in Vietnam.
You're on the ground. You're 19
67.
years old.
Yeah, 19.
19 years old on the ground. They hand you a machine gun or whatever, a weapon, and you're out in the bush.
Well, the first week there, I mean, I could share this with you. I know we're going to get into more down this road. But when I first got there, I had a fresh green uniform. Nobody wants to talk to you, especially the old timers. And I understood that, the guys were getting killed right and left. And the first mission I went on, our squad went out and we were looking for Charlie. And they told me anything inside the hut, kill it, anything that moved. So I went in there and I did some killing. And scared to death, shaking. I'm 19 years old. I just went from graduating high school, and now I'm in the woods killing. And those are what PTSD is all about. That in alone, I've relived that probably a million times in my life. Because you go from one environment to another, and you're more scared than you do anything. Like guys say, he's a hero. No, I'm not no hero. I'm a guy, 19 years old, scared in the jungle in another country, and I'm like I did in Youngstown. I do what I had to do to survive. I don't apologize for it, but I live with it 50-some years. It don't go away. You just learn how to deal with it. That's all.
You left your family obviously back home. Did you leave a girl back home too?
Yeah, I had the girlfriend. I had the whole 9 yards. But
what was it like? So high school. Give me a little bit of that. Sock hops and dances.
Yeah, the sock hops.
Football. What was your?
No, I didn't play no sports. I like lifting weights. I enjoyed life. I was a happy-go-lucky guy, smiling, laughing. And even when I went through basic training and advanced infantry training down at Fort Polk, Louisiana, I could see Leo changing. I could see a different Leo. And you start getting that kill mentality. And then, when you finally, that plane lands and you get off that plane, reality sets in. I mean, you start hearing pop, pop, pop. And now, this is the real world. This is... And you want to laugh. I was with an Italian kid from New York. We flew over together. And I got off the plane, and I heard this one guy from Georgia say, "Hey, y'all, come over here." And I go, "Hey, that guy grew up in the woods." So I told my buddy Rocco, I said, "Let's get on him." So we got on him.
Stick with him.
And I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm living proof. I made it home.
No kidding, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Leaving the sock hop into the jungle.
Yeah.
First mission. You go in,
killed the Viet Cong, and then I was in the hut and I seen some hay moving. I walked over, I popped that, and it was a lady and a kid, and and that's what probably got to me the most. But I had to take the thinking I had as an American, and
you don't know what's in that hay.
This is war. These are the casualties. This is called, if you want it, for lack of a better word, collateral damage. And this is was going to get me home. And it did. I mean, the survival. Everything I learned, I put to use. I paid close attention when I learned to go over, and I was going to be fighting for my life. So.
You leave the hut that night, that day.
I come back to the hut. Nobody would talk to me because I still had the brand new uniform on, and after I
did they know you just came from battle and you were shooting guys?
Yeah, because they kept a record of the kills that we had, and they would come back, and the sergeant or whoever led the platoon would put down. We hit this village, and there's 15 Viet Cong casualties, and there was a record of it, but. When I come back, I was like a loner because nobody would talk to me because of the new uniform. And until I educated myself and put 5-6 months in, I didn't want to meet nobody new either because I don't know, they could be dead tomorrow. So I don't want to meet, just give me your first name. I don't care where you're from, what you're doing. And then I understood it. I just, I prepared myself to protect myself, but I didn't prepare myself for the mental stuff that I went through.
How did you, my closest thing to killing, is animal. You're hunting for bird and rabbit and shit like
exactly,
that.
Yeah.
So, had you ever killed anything, other than bugs and stuff like that? But anything like
no, I mean other than like I said with my fist fighting. Other than
were you a fighter back in high school? Back in school?
Well, I learned to
take care of yourself.
Yeah, you step on my lawn, I'm gonna give you something. But if you don't, we're fine. I wasn't like I went and looked for it. But
yeah.
But if you want to get it on, I got no problem getting it on. But as far as that way of life. And you know what's ironic? What went through my mind the whole year is we're over there. I'm trying to give Leo, a reason to be there. I mean, I've always said, and I'm asked this question a million times, would I do it over again? There's not enough money printed that would stop me. I thought it was a privilege to wear that uniform. I thought it was a privilege to represent America. And I would do it all over again, but I never could understand the war. What we were doing there. Now you have the African-American veteran, and I'm going to try to do a rewind and bring you back to 1967. There was a racial war going on. Here's a guy laying his life down for his country, but he cannot come in America and sit down with me and have dinner. I'll give you a little example I'll share with you. We were at Fort Polk, Louisiana. We're almost at the end of our training, which is an 8 weeks basic training, then you go 8 weeks infantry. And we're almost at the end, so we got like you can go downtown, go to dinner, and then come back. Very, very rare would they let us off the base. And me and a guy named Greenlee went down to the restaurant, and we sitting there for like 20 minutes. And I said, ma'am, are we going to get waited on? She told me, sir, we don't wait on the N-word, and we don't wait on lovers. And I knew what she was saying, so I got up and right away I wanted to use my hands and just give her a good slap. And my friend from Michigan grabs me and he pushes me out and he said, Leo, you don't understand what's going on here. Well, when I walked out, I seen the two spigots. One said white and one said colored. They were drinking fountains. I mean, I'm totally confused. I'm from Youngstown, Ohio, and I've never seen any kind of prejudice like I did there. And we ended up coming back to the base. We got shipped out. I did 6 months as a leg unit in the jungle and then 6 months as a door gunner. Well, a door gunner, you go out maybe 10 times a day and either go in the battle or you go pick up bodies, or that's what our outfit did. And we went and we picked some bodies up, and guess who's in the helicopter? Greenlee. Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, and I mean, normally I cry when I do this, because to think he sacrificed his life for this country and cannot sit down at a restaurant. So I try to let people, when I explain the chapters of my life to let them understand where we were at that time. You know, it isn't like today. Most of the kids that are going in the military are going into the fire. Most back then were running away from the fire.
Right.
So it's a story within a story that another thing you have to live with. I call them the hidden scars of war. You know, just because I don't have my limb. I mean, I do have my limbs. You know, it's like being like you lost your limbs because you have to live with that, and it doesn't go away. You just learn how to deal with it.
Well, you know, we interviewed one of the guys in the documentary. He had lost. We interviewed a couple guys that had no limbs, but Chris Lawrence was a guy that had lost his legs, and you know, he had talked about like phantom pain, and you know, talking about these scars of war, that phantom pain that he would say you would feel things, and sometimes it was just a numbness. You go in this thing, you never. Were you a hunter? I mean, were you ever in a hunted thing? You killed people.
Yeah.
How do you react to that? Did you feel different?
I mean, you talk about feeling different. You talk about thinking different. You got to remember, I went from a very much home environment into a jungle where it's a whole different world.
180, yeah.
And that's why I kind of laugh at the fact that this guy from Georgia, he taught us how to suck some leaves off the tree so you don't get thirsty. One time we're pinned down. We hadn't eaten in 2 days. We couldn't get food into us. The sea rash is what we had, and he was taking worms and breaking them and eating them. And I looked at him. I go, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "This is protein." I never knew it was protein. And then later on, when I come home, they had like chocolate-covered ants and stuff. It was a delicacy. But back then, the things I learned, the simple things that you and I or the normal person would take advantage of, that's how you got home. That's how you survived. And my whole mindset, due to the farmers that we were with, or I don't want to pick on farmers, but guys that grew up in that environment, saved us because we're city guys. You don't know anything about the woods or what to do, and unless you've walked through that jungle, you can't even fathom how dark and how condensed it is, what you had to go through. I mean, I had a machete that I used to clean the bushes to get through the paths, And Charlie's he's a good soldier. I mean, he knew how to set traps and everything.
His land, right? You're on his land.
Yeah, I mean, the French were there 19 years.
Oh, right.
And
they couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it, and most of it for him was underground. I mean, they had tunnels that. It was phenomenal. I mean, the one time I played Tunnel Rat, I went in the tunnel and I was mesmerized at how creative they were. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I seen at that point, I don't think there was a way we could have won. I really don't.
And Leo, I think it's nice to touch on how you said I was just a city folk. It's important to kind of probably hit on, you were in Youngstown when Youngstown was one of the best places to live in America. It was building.
Post World War II.
It was growing.
Yeah, you're talking 300,000 population.
For the listeners out there, this was a prosperous area, something great going on, and then you're going to war. So I think it was just kind of important just to kind of hit on the Youngstown. You came from such a great place.
Well, that's why I wanted to say back up and look at where we were. Put yourself in the 1966, 67, 68 mentality, where we were. I mean, we were a prosperous area. The mills were going. You're building a brand new mall in 1970. I mean, there's so much going on in Youngstown, Ohio, just itself. You got GM is up and running. The last, I think, they started there like in 66. So, I mean, everything is like, and then you got to leave from here and go to war. I mean, right. It's like, and you're exactly right. Unless the people that maybe weren't even born yet at that era need to understand where we were and how prosperous it was. Not that it isn't Youngstown and Mahoning and Trumbull County. I still think it's a fabulous place to live.
Oh, absolutely. I
wouldn't live nowhere else in the world. I mean, I love where I'm at, and I've had the opportunity. I wouldn't leave this area because of its people. The greatest jewel we have is its people. Family oriented. We never give up. I mean, they're talking about GM moving. Well, let them move. I don't care. We had the greatest workforce in the world. We ain't got to kiss nobody's butt to stay here. You don't want to stay, leave. That's my thinking, because we've got the greatest people, and they're going to survive. So I left that mentality, people that were surviving, were prospering, and I'm out there fighting the war. And you're right. We need to. When I say we, I mean Leo Connelly and the veteran needs to educate them what the cost of freedom was. It was expensive on my end, and the ones that didn't pay that price, maybe they need to just educate themselves. But thank you for pointing that out.
Right.
So you come back, this diametric shift, family, booming town. You go to this poor country.
Yeah.
Right. You're there fighting. Unknown, unseen sometimes, obviously talking about the tunnels, unseen enemy. You saw a lot of action. You know, I was fortunate enough, like I said, to have done interviews with it before. 3 major battles. You had the Viet, and correct me, I want you to step in and to tell me some of this stuff. And you already mentioned about being Leo was a helicopter gunner, and we talked a lot about that in Operation Resurrection. But the stuff we didn't talk about, and Leo doesn't really mention a lot of it. Vietnam Cross of Gallantry. He had 3 commendations, 9 air medals, various badges. I know you got a lot more stuff. Your resume in valor, commendations for valor, are extensive.
To me, that's kind of like looking at the scoreboard. It tells you where you're at, what you did. Like people look at me when I'm dressed in my military uniform, and like you said, I got 3 Army commendations with V device for valor. I have 9 air medals, all for valor. The Vietnamese palm with the cross, and then there's various ribbons I wear that aren't military issued, but if you flew in a combat zone, you'd get a ribbon and stuff that the government don't issue, but you're allowed to wear. And CIB badge, that's combat infantry badge. You had to have so many days in combat to get it. And then the door gunner wings I wear. I got a call that we may be upgrading one of the medals to a Silver Star for this last incident once they put the whole story together. So, I think that's just a measurement of what you've done over there.
Well, and you were obviously, I always kind of group people into 2 categories, in terms of a fight or flight response. You're either, and it doesn't have to be just that all the time. Sometimes in a fight or flight, sometimes you flight and sometimes you fight. Sometimes it's a rational decision to flee so that you can fight another day or regroup or whatever. Not to get into that kind of stuff. This isn't about Sun Tzu, but you were a fight guy. Your reaction was fight, which probably helped you to survive. You had to do a lot of things you talked about that, affected you. Tell us what it was like to save lives, because you did a lot of that being a door gunner. Walk me through one of those stories, one of those missions. I remember one, and I'll screw it up because it's been a long time since we talked about it, but I remember you talking about grabbing guys and throwing them into the helicopter while taking fire to get the hell out of there. You get these guys out, you save them. Tell me that feeling too.
Well, that's what happened. That brought the story to my Purple Heart. What had happened is June 12th of 1967 till June 26th. It was Operation Billings. Now, I was in 3 major battles. One was Counteroffensive 2, which was Operation Billings. Counteroffensive 3 was more like in December of 67, and then the Tet Offensive in January hit. Well, on the Operation Billings, there was probably, I'm going to say 100 and some killed, maybe 1,500 and some wounded. And I heard of a comrade, he was screaming, so I crawled over to him to get him. Charlie was next to him. I thought Charlie was dead. He was playing possum, and he took out a knife. He cut my arm, and then when I went to get my knife to kill him, he had stuck me in the side. Thank God he didn't hit the spleen. He went into my side. And I slit his throat and killed him. And then I picked the comrade up and I run to the helicopter. Now I'm bleeding, and I know I don't want to go back to the Red Cross, because if you did, you might come back to the division, but you may not go back to your platoon. So I was kind of scared of that, and I run into the medic said,
Why were you scared of that? You don't want to leave the guys?
I don't want to leave the guys I was with, because it's like us sitting here. I can look at you and know what to do. The motion, and we got to know each other, and it's a bond that, believe me, greater than any fraternity walking. But when I put the guy inside, I can hear pop, 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 pop. I knew I was still going on. So I took the M60 off the helicopter, grabbed some ammunition, and I went back into the jungle. I disobeyed an order. Captain Hudson was his name. In fact, I just talked to him the other day. He lives in Georgia.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we reunited because of the Purple Heart. We got to talking again. And I just didn't know where he was. We lost contact with each other for 50 years. And he remembered, he said, you disobeyed my order and you went back into the jungle. And you always have that.
Why'd you do that?
It's
Just for the fight, for the action?
Well, what you do is when you're training, you learn one thing: you leave nobody behind. So my idea is, if I can get in there and kill a couple more of them and save my comrades, we come back. We can all come out together, And I've done that even in life, If sometimes there comes a price to pay with that. I could have got killed that day, and I just got stabbed. And lucky enough, I had the medic in the field. He did what they call a butterfly stitch, which is almost like a stitch. And then later on, guys come over, they'd pull the bandage off, they'd wipe it, shoot me with some morphine, and then bandage it up again. And I have the scar, but I end up surviving.
What did it feel like? You get stuck. What do you stick you with? Big knife, stick, like a shank in prison? And what homemade?
I want to sound like a hero and say it was a big knife. But you know something? I didn't see the knife. It happens, everything happened fast, and I think it was just my reaction. It's just an automatic reaction from being the survival mode at home. You get into the jungle, it's just about survival. And then you don't want to see anybody else get left behind. I mean, if a guy's dead, I'm going to carry him out of that field. I'm getting him out of there. And I've done it many a times where we flew in, there make 6, 7 guys dead, and throw them into the helicopter and get them back to where they can put them in a body bag and ship them home. And it's constant. I mean, the outfit I was with, there was a tank unit, air unit, infantry unit. It was the big red one, but we were with the 4th Cav D Troop, and that had everything. So to put people as mindset as to, we might fly back, refuel, and then the horn go off again, and you fly out to another battle. I mean, we were constantly into it, and but the survival mode stays with you. It doesn't go even today, whether it's a survival to learn something or make my book a little bit better with a nice legacy. It's all about survival.
So you get back. We'll fast forward ahead a little bit, but you get stabbed. You don't fill any paperwork out like you'd said. You didn't really let anybody know, but you got stabbed, and you go back. You're back in Youngstown, Ohio.
Yeah.
Part of the process with that Operation Resurrection documentary was like getting guys back and kind of reacclimated, right? Because they were coming back from battle. They're hypervigilant. What's the process? You get done. You're done. The TET's over. You left not right after, shortly after TET.
I left March of '68. It was like 90 days after the TET. But the mindset, most people have the mindset they have today where there's the crisis line and there's a suicide line. And none of that was available. You got to remember, when you come home in '68, they hated veterans. They actually told you, take your uniform off when you go home because you would get beat up.
You take your uniform off?
I ain't taking mine off for nobody. I'm proud of.
Oh yeah.
No, I put it on today.
You ain't messing with Leo, man.
Yeah.
You ain't.
I mean, but the mindset was when you come home, you weren't welcome. You were spit on. You were called a baby killer. There was no programs to deprogram you.
Did that help you feel or be able to better relate how your buddy and when you guys were in Louisiana and that lady wouldn't serve you? Did you feel
to be quite honest with you, it made me hate more. It made me more hateful. I become more violent because, to think, wait a minute, I just put my life on hold. I paid a hell of a price, and now I'm coming home, and nobody thanks you for it. Nobody. And that's why you'll see one veteran say to another Vietnam veteran I'm speaking about, "Welcome home." A lot of people don't understand that. We were never welcome home. So when I see a brother, I say, hey, man, welcome home. They understand what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. But,
wow.
To try to get everybody that's listening to this, put your mindset is you do a good deed and then somebody comes up and says they could care less and they spit on you. It's hard for today's generation to understand what the Vietnam vet went through when he come home.
And you're over there just trying to survive. It wasn't like, first off, you got drafted.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going there as an obligation to your country.
Exactly.
You didn't try to run. You didn't try to do. Some guys, they don't go. They flee whatever it is. It's
They went to
fight or
Canada.
flight. They went to Canada. Or they went to, and so, you served your country. Now you're in this position where, and I like how you put it. It made me hate more.
Yeah.
When you came back, did you feel still in that fight mode, or did you have time to kind of decompress before you guys?
No, to
came
be
back?
honest with you, I had jungle fatigues on when I left Vietnam. I landed in New Jersey, and you took that off. You took a shower. They give you a thing, give you a couple of dollars, and I come back to Youngstown. No deprogramming, no nothing. And I think
What is that deprogram for the listeners?
deprogram is to try to get you, try to get that killing mold out of you. All I had was survival. I mean, I carried a pistol, hell, for a long time. I mean, sometimes I'd have 2 pistols on me. And like I said, when we done an earlier documentary, you think you're paranoid. You think somebody is going to attack you, and there's nobody there. It's just it's in your mind and has yet to be taken out of your mind. And that's kind of like a deprogramming. We weren't ready for that. And I had an uncle that was in World War II. He was a POW, Anthony Zizzo, and he had that mindset. Uncle Tony, everywhere he go, he'd have 3, 4 pistols on him, and nobody ever took that paranoia. Taught him how to deal with it. Like today, even with all the chapters I have in my life, some good, some bad, I learned how to deal with them. I learned there's a better way, a different way of dealing with them. I would run to the bottle. I mean, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I haven't drank in probably 40, 50 years, but I used to do a fifth a day. You wouldn't even know I was drinking.
Wow.
And then I was a violent drunk. I wasn't a nice drunk. I mean, I'd go in a bar, drink, and the biggest, because you can't brag about beating up a little guy.
Right.
But a big guy come in, I'd just walk over and knock him off the stool. I mean, I didn't like that Leo then. I mean, I for lack of a better word, it might have been the biggest a-hole I ever seen. If you looked up idiot or a-hole, Leo's picture, 8x10 is there. I mean, I hated that guy.
But you didn't know why you were doing it either.
No, you're exactly right. I wish that. I mean, now I talk about it, and it's actually part of the medicine that helped me over the last probably 15, 20 years. I learned how to combat it now. Now, when the panic attacks or the helicopter flies over, I know what to do now. Where before I didn't have a clue. I thought, well, hell, go to the bottle, drink the bottle, and just beat the hell out of people.
And I think it's really interesting what you said about coming home. And I've always felt, I'm 33 years old, and I know the history of Vietnam and what, I don't know, obviously personally, but I know the history of you guys coming home from that. But for people that are like 30 or 40 years old, we've been accustomed to when guys come home, they're getting Super Bowl commercials, they're getting videos surprising their family.
Yeah.
They got marches. They get together in
That's a great
gymnasiums
point,
and celebrate it. That's all I know. So when I think of a soldier coming home, it's so beautiful nowadays. You know what I mean? It's such a beautiful thing that hopefully somebody captures it. And it's so interesting to me to know that was probably one of the toughest things that you had to do is after you got done doing your story, you're coming home to be hated on. And not to mention, you got drafted for it.
Yeah, you didn't volunteer.
You didn't volunteer.
You didn't go look for a fight.
So I could only imagine surviving and now having to survive again. Like you're home. That's supposed to be something so beautiful that we're accustomed
Safe.
to now.
You're sitting in a safe place, and you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Well, to add to that, and you're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head. I would want to stick my chest out and say maybe us educating the public might have made how they greet a veteran today. I would
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
I would like to think that what we're doing,
sure.
what we're doing here, this talking. It's somebody out there. If we help one veteran, if I can say, Leo Connelly can do it, I can do it, and I would want to accredit the Vietnam veteran to educating people what the cost of freedom is. I seen the warm welcome. Guys will be in a restaurant from Iraq, Afghanistan, or whatever, and I've actually watched people pick their checks up or go up and shake their hand and say thank you for serving. And I'm so happy to see that now. Maybe it's something we did that caused that. Maybe it is.
I hope that's never forgotten. I think unfortunately what you guys had to go through when you come home. A generation like me and other generations will not treat, no matter what the situation is, a soldier coming home. I don't think I hope will never be treated the way that the Vietnam
Well,
veterans.
that's why I
are coming out.
appreciate what the Two Ticks and the Dog and Jim Fogarty and you guys are doing, because now we're not stopping with education. We're still getting out here. We're still talking about it. And again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but if we can reach some audience out there, some person that's suffering from war, and what we're doing here will get to them, then we did our job. We did our mission.
Absolutely.
I appreciate the nod.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying to do it. We're doing a small part, but there's the sacrifice that obviously our veterans and our safety forces and you got people are putting their life
the first
on the line.
responders,
It's easy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's easy to sit there and criticize, because people politicize it. I don't want to have that conversation, but people politicize it, unfortunately, and there's obviously some war should be the last thing, right? I mean,
but you touched on it. It's the firemen, it's the policemen, it's the first responders. Anybody that leaves their house,
you're risking your life
with putting their life on the line
for somebody else,
for strangers.
Yep.
And that is to be commended. Whether you're in the military or whether you're a firefighter or a policeman or you're the guy, security guard at the bank, you're putting your life on the line for strangers.
Yeah.
And I think by what you're doing here, this is going to educate the public. I really feel that in my heart.
I hope so. Well, I don't want to turn it into the dark days, but I think to get to the other side where Leo's at now, we do have to touch on that. And some of it could be, Jimmy Buffett's got a great line at how time after a tragedy sometimes turns a tragedy into a comedy. Like sometimes if you can't laugh about it,
that's right.
You can't be crying all the time. But you come home, and Brandon brought up a great point about how Youngstown was. You've only been gone a year, but you come home, you're a different man. Is Youngstown starting, and the nation as a whole, it's turning into something else, right? You're having the 70s come into play. Tell me about that. You're drinking. How did you start drinking right away when you came back?
Yeah, I was drinking heavy when I come. I didn't drink in Vietnam, but when I come home, I started drinking heavy, and it seemed like it was an easy door to get out.
Yeah.
I found a door, and I could drink a fifth, go to sleep for maybe 2-3 hours. I've never, since I've been home, I've yet to have 6 or 7 hours sleep unless I had operation done. But it was a door to get out. You can do a fifth of liquor and go to sleep, or if I got in a fight or I did something, I had a good excuse. Hey, I was drunk. But after we went down the road a little bit, that was a lie. It was Leo doing it. It had nothing to do with that bottle. It's a choice that Leo chose. So, and then, like I said, today we learned to deal with what Leo did, and we learned to talk about it. And you can sit and blame everybody you want, but just look in the mirror. It was Leo.
Did you drink before you left? Were you a drinker before?
Yeah, occasional, as a high school
Young kid,
sneak a beer or something. But no, I wasn't really a drinker.
You're in a spot now. It's approaching the 70s. You're in the 70s, and you're the term self-medicating, right?
Yeah.
You're self-medicating. Now you're in Youngstown. For anybody that doesn't know if you don't know Youngstown, pick up a book and turn on an Eric Murphy movie or watch it. We were talking yesterday about the Irishman, or not the Irishman.
Yeah, from Cleveland. Yeah.
Well, not that. It was another one. They're doing another. Scorsese's doing another thing, but of course he mentions Youngstown and some of his Goodfellas and some other stuff. But anyways, you're back here. You're looking for work. You get mixed up with some, I don't say, but wise guys. You get mixed up with, how does that happen?
Well, the neighborhood we grew up in, everybody knew everybody, and it wasn't like it was a mob or all that like they try to say. It's just a bunch of neighborhood guys got together, and I seen a door where there was action. It's back the Vietnam mentality.
Were you chasing it? You're chasing the action at that point?
I think I loved action then.
Yeah.
It was a love I had. Like I went to prison for burglary, and that action, the fact that I got away with something. It wasn't the catch with me. It was the chase. I love the chase. I love the idea of knowing I beat them. And that also had a price. I ended up going to prison. Did close to 8 years. Did 12 years on parole on paper. So I had a 20-year bit for attempted burglary. And it was over in PA. I mean, over here you'd probably get 2 years. PA to give me 20 years. And they thought they were going to create a rat, which that ain't in my DNA. So I did the time in Supermax prison, where there was a wall over at Western Pennsylvania. I got out and started doing some real soul searching then, and thought, man, there got to be something better than this. It's, it can't be. But I noticed that the flame kind of come down a little bit that Leo had, that flare. And I looked at life differently and thought, do I really want this to be my legacy? Do I really want my children to see what this is? And I started doing, with my alcoholism, I went to one of those treatments. It was like a 30-day treatment. I got drunk there. It was a joke. I mean, I didn't. So that's when I started doing inventory of Leo. And I started taking one thing at a time to see how we can change Leo, how we can educate Leo.
What did I want the listeners to have because I know some of the stories,
yeah.
But I want to know the listeners, let these listeners know, what were some of the things that you did that were so bad? Obviously, the burglary thing is not a good, but you don't just go from you're new on the street, fresh from Vietnam, now you're committing burglaries. There's a process, right? How did that start? Who did you meet?
Well, it's just a bunch of guys, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and I thought, this is kind of like what I want to do. This is what they're getting action.
Did you have a job at the time?
Yeah, I was. Believe it or not, you're going to laugh. I worked for Ed DeBartolo Construction at the time. They were just cleared some houses at the Southern Park Mall, and they were putting the mall in. And I went there and applied for labor's job, and I got a labor's job, a mason tender. In fact, I laughed. We were making $5.05 an hour, which was big money back then. Average home was like $10,000, and I started working at the Southern Park Mall. I think I want to say 69 or 70, something like that, and it wasn't until later on in life, between the drinking and that, I mean, it created its own problems, as far as working, having the ability to go to work, and the mindset. Like I said, things got boring.
Drinking every day at that point?
Every day, yeah, didn't miss a day. It's.
And you're working hard.
Oh yeah,
I did some masonry work. That ain't easy work.
No, I've always been a worker. I love. I've never shied away from work. If you want to scrub a floor, or you want to build I'm in.
Yeah, and you're a big, strong guy. You're a physically. I'm a small guy, so it's fucking imposing to me. But you're a big, strong guy, so you're getting these construction jobs. And just backtrack real quick for the listeners. Ed DeBartolo was a owner of the San Francisco 49ers during the time of Joe Montana and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so you're working there building this. He was a commercial real estate developer and developing malls. So you're doing that stuff.
Well, that was his dad, not him. That was his dad.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, his father.
Okay.
His father,
this was Ed Sr.
Ed Sr.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're doing this in the day, and then you're getting off of work. You're going right to the bar?
Right from work, we'd go at the Telstar over there in Cornersburg or wherever they didn't throw Leo out. And
what was the scene like back then? This is 1970s. You see the disco thing, and you see people cocaine, and you see flashy suits.
The cocaine didn't come into the picture right away. It was marijuana. Guys were doing Quaaludes or all of that, but it was like. The thing, everybody met at the bar and you had fun. You went out, you had a ball, you could act like an idiot or do what you want to do and go home.
Did you ever try the lewds? Did you ever get into the lewds?
No, I was never. I was the kind of guy. I was more a drinker than I was alcohol. But if it was there, I would do it.
Yeah.
There ain't no, I ain't going to hide behind no curtain. That was me. But if you said, Leo, on your way coming here, stop and pick up some lewds or pick up this, I don't think so. I'm not going to go out of my way. But if you got it there, we'll get it on.
Yeah. Then fighting? You fighting every night, every other night?
Fighting. I mean, and 90% of the time it was Leo. Like my one friend said to me, "What'd that guy do to you?" I said, "He might have said hi. I don't have a clue." I said, sometimes you're so drunk you don't realize you're even in the fight. But
did you ever get whipped?
Oh yeah. He usually got whipped by smaller guys, and you couldn't brag about it. Yeah. And then you couldn't brag about it.
Right.
You had to hope the guy was a little bigger than you. And you could say, yeah, I beat that guy up. But a guy's like 5 foot, 100 pound, he beats the hell out of you. You catch a boom boom Mancini with that.
Man,
with that hand speed, you're getting your butt whipped.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
No, you told me a story one time about being. I don't remember you filling the blanks. It was. And correct me if I'm wrong, because this is a long time ago we talked about it. You pulled either you pulled a sink off the wall in a fight, or you broke a guy's head.
Yeah, we were in a fight in the bathroom. I don't know.
How's it start? Set the scene. Where you at?
We were drinking. I think it was. I can't remember. I really can't remember.
With your girlfriend, with your buddies.
No, I was with a bunch of guys, and we're out doing the guy thing.
Is this a mill bar, or is this like a upper? We talked about
I
the
think it
living
was.
room
It was an upper scale bar, and in fact, my wife now she remembers it. And the guy said,
"Was she there? Was she there?"
Yeah, she was there. That's the first time she's seen how violent I was.
Oh Jesus!
And I beat the hell out of the guy, and then I took his head and I pushed it down on the sink, and I broke the sink. And they come in and jump me. I mean, I was full of blood. They asked me to leave the bar that time. I mean, it was.
How old are you at this point?
I got to be late 20s, maybe.
Wow.
And at the time, I was. You couldn't stop me. I mean, it was like. It was like when you walk in a bar, everybody walk out. They go, "This asshole's here again,"
The fucking wrecking ball. Leo, the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
Did you have a reputation for going in and?
Yeah. They knew me, and what I said, it wasn't one that I was proud of, but it was how I dealt with probably Leo's demons. It was an easy door for me to get out, and like I said, I can tell the lie and say, well, I was drunk when I did it, or somebody said, gee, how'd you
the excuse?
Yeah.
Make the excuse.
Without a question. Yeah. Like I said, it's. It comes back to it was Leo. I don't care what label you want to put on it. It was Leo. But you can blame the alcohol, the war, forget all of that. Life's choices, and that's the choice I choose. That's what I chose. But
you had some neighborhood guys though, probably like that, right? They're like, "Oh, this Leo's a tough guy.
Yeah,
we're gonna hire him for some gigs." Is that how you kind of get into the,
And then I started getting a little bit of a reputation, so I'd go out here and try to collect money for the bookmakers. And I don't want to mention the judge's name, but I had to laugh because one time we were out eating, with the new Leo, and he said, "Do you know how you met me?" And I go, "No." He said, and this is when Youngstown was thriving, and I walked into some attorney. This attorney owed $1,500. I was in one of them flipped out days, so I go in and tell who was ever in there to get out. I told the guy, "Get out." I threw him out.
Are you drunk at this point?
I'm sober.
You're sober.
I threw the guy out, and I went in, grabbed the attorney guy, walked him into the bank, got the money, and I left.
Did you try to put up a fight? He was like, "Oh no."
Yeah. Well, I was ready to pistol whip him, and the judge, we're sitting around it. We're up in age, and we're sitting around, and I had no idea he was the guy I threw out of the room that day. And he's a real good friend.
He was the guy in the front. Get out.
I told him, "Get out," and I closed the door, and then and when I look back at it now, I mean, I thought. I don't know how it is nobody didn't shoot me. It was amazing the crazy stuff I would do.
Well, you went through Vietnam.
Yeah.
Out on the other side, was there a little bit of like an invincibility? Like I've been in the bush killing Viet Cong and slitting throats and stuff and surviving. This is nothing to me.
You hit it right on the head. I think that was my mindset. I really do. I believe in that, and I believe, and not my excuse. That was my mindset as to, hey, I'm invisible, and my
invincible. I gotcha.
Yeah. And I could do whatever I want to do. Well, there's people out here that'll chop your legs out from under you. There's a lot of tough Leos out here. So, and it took me a while to come across to that. And then I got to the point where there had to be a better life. This ain't getting it.
About what age is that?
Well, I was going to ask too, like how so were you doing a lot of burglaries? You're doing a lot of book collection?
Probably more in the mid 40s. I was in my 40s when so that's how long that
So you had 20 years kind of in this build up to this lifestyle.
Is that before you went to prison?
Yeah.
So you come home at 20 from Vietnam, right?
Well, 21.
21,
Yeah.
and then you're in your mid 40s at this point.
Yeah.
You still haven't went to prison yet.
No, I went to prison in '88.
Okay.
So it was quite some time, but the action kept going.
Right.
It was like, I still wanted the action, even though there was a point where I quit drinking. I quit the drinking. I didn't smoke. I didn't drink, but I still had that fire.
Were you still drinking while you were,
No,
robbing?
No.
So you're a couple years. How long did that take?
I
place from
probably,
drinking?
well, I'm
You're like, gonna-
71, so I probably been dry maybe 40, 45 years. So I was still completely dry, but I still had.
What made you quit? You just thought, I'm done with it. I don't want to be fighting anymore.
I woke up one day in my apartment and I didn't realize.
Married, living by yourself. I hate to keep
I was
interrupting.
single.
Like
I was divorced and went through that scene.
oh shit!
But you want to laugh is I went into a bar. I was heavily drunk, and I asked for a shot, and they wouldn't serve me. So I pulled my pistol out and I shot the coolers. I shot the coolers up. Yeah, no, wait. It gets better.
You shoot the
Leo thought he was in the Wild West. Man.
Yeah. And then what happened was, I don't know how I ended up home. My car was there. I'm on the floor in my apartment, and I got a knock at the door, and I owed like 30-some hundred for the damage I'd done. I didn't even know I'd done the damage, and that was the mindset. And I end up shooting up the place, and everybody run out. And I told them, now nobody drinks. I can't drink. Nobody drinks.
Wow.
So that was that that tough guy stuff, coming in.
Did you get in trouble for it?
No, the guy knew me, didn't bring charges, but I had to pay for it. It cost me I think it was $3,600, which was a lot of money back then.
What year is this? 70s, 80s?
Yeah, early 70s. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's
So this is towards the end of your 20s.
Yeah.
You quit drinking.
yeah.
Okay, but you weren't done with.
The
lifestyle
the violent end of it of Leo
Until what,
continue.
40s?
Yeah, and that was like something that it's just a natural response. You just naturally respond. It's like you're getting ready to fight a guy. You hit him. I broke a guy's nose one time in a shot and shell, and then I thought about hitting him. I already hit him. I already broke his nose, and then I thought about hitting him. It was like, I could, and I've talked to psychiatrist friends of mine, they didn't even understand that mindset. And one guy put it real comical. He said, then you're the kind of guy shuts the switch off in bed before the light goes out. I go, yeah, I guess so.
So was it? So I'm guessing there was a time period there where, at first, you were probably thinking of, this is, or maybe even using an excuse, but this is what I came from. This is who I am now.
Yeah.
Do you remember it switching to like what you did in Vietnam really didn't matter? Now you're just you doing bad things, or do you think that it was always in the back of your mind the Vietnam?
You're
stuff?
asking, were you aware of the Vietnam stuff while you were doing this stuff?
That's a good question.
Like your first couple of years, you're probably like, this is
yeah,
what I come from. I'm angry right now. This is what I come from. Maybe these punches are because of what I just came from. But was there like a switch where it's like, now it's just who I am, and this is just a violent
and I
person?
think you're exactly right. And I think Vietnam may have been there without my knowledge.
Right.
It was like it was a mode that you automatically start doing, and then it's a habit.
Right.
It's like I tell somebody to cross their hands and then uncross them and fold it the other way. It's uncomfortable. Well, so I was happy with the comfort of what I was doing then, and now we got rid of the alcohol excuse, and now it was just Leo. So that's when I finally come to the point where I say, wait a minute, you're not drinking, so you don't have that excuse. You're not smoking. You've got a job, you're making, and you're still being violent. So that's where the definition of Leo Connelly come in. It's Leo. It ain't anything else.
Were you still working construction at that time, or you're doing something different now?
I was with the Teamsters then, in the construction end of it. Yeah, I went with them.
So this is like Teamsters. This is Jimmy Hoffa era, right? Did you ever meet Hoffa?
Yeah, I've met him. I was at the dinner up in Cleveland with the Teamsters. And,
wow.
And
you don't know where he's buried, do you?
I think no.
We'll save that for another episode of the ProdCast, maybe. But that transition though. So you're done drinking. You're working for the Teamsters. How'd you start robbing and stealing? And
I got a call.
And what kind of stuff were you robbing?
Oh,
You weren't like knocking people over on
No,
the
no,
street.
I wouldn't do houses.
burglary.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do houses. All jewelry stores. And in the mall, we're going to do the jewelry stores. And
Smash and grab, or you're planning this shit out?
some of them were crash and dash, and some you cut a hole, went in, beat the safe, and a little bit more technology, because back then it was just a matter of the burglar alarms were just a flow of electricity, so you can beat them and come in, and and like today they jam the signal, you can forget the alarm, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
and it was a matter of a crew that a bunch of guys that I knew said, hey man, we could use a guy today, we need a lookout, or we need this, that, and then I thought, wow, this is easy, that easy buck.
Did you make a lot of money?
Yeah,
Oh,
but I went down to Kells, in Camel, and got in some crap games, and
Blew it.
yeah, but he didn't care.
Bar boot? Were you playing bar boot?
Yeah, I played bar boot.
We were talking about bar boot yesterday.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
and see, you knew you're just going to go out and get more. So if you blew 10,000, you could care less. You go get another 10,000.
Did you ever blow 10,000 in a
yeah.
night?
Yeah, I blew
Oh
10.
my God.
10,000 in the 70s, 80s is what,
That's a
30,000?
ton of-
Yeah,
a ton of money,
Well, that's
yeah.
what I was saying. I was making $505 an hour. So they just put that in the right. 2,000 hours a year is 10,000 salary. So I mean, and it's
Minimum wage, I think, was $5.15 in 98, 99 or something like that. So you're making really
505
good money
and
back
70.
then.
Oh yeah,
You're making a buck.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That's a good buck.
yeah. And
How'd you get into it? Who? You don't have to mention names, obviously, but who? What's the scenario? Hey, Leo, we're gonna go do this thing. Was there like?
you mean in the burglary? End?
Yeah.
I think I kind of had the guts to go do it.
But you didn't do. Did you by yourself first time?
No. I went with a crew, but it was a case where they had to trust you. If they don't trust you, but they knew what I was about.
Neighborhood guys, Briar Hill guys.
Without question. If I got to go do life, I'll go do life. They knew they weren't asking a guy that was going to be a rat. We go, we get caught. We know the consequences.
And they knew you were a savage, man. You're you know.
Yeah. I mean, they knew what I was all about. Like I said, there was a good side. and
No
a
one's
bad.
getting in the phone booth with Leo.
No, well, it wasn't so much that as you were trusted. He's a guy of his word. Like when I went to penitentiary, I went and they knew I was going. I went myself and come out myself. I didn't bring a crew with me. And they tried. I mean, they tried to get me to flip 100 times. It just didn't work.
But you got to have a certain mentality to carry that stuff out, right? So they knew if it was going down, they knew obviously you were loyal. You were getting down with it, right? I mean, you weren't.
Well, most Italians, you come up from the family, you learn loyalty and respect.
Right.
It's like a part of your DNA. Like today, if I had to go do life, I got to go do life. It's no big thing. You have to put your mindset to that. I remember the first time I got 20 years for the burglary, and my mother was in the courtroom, an old Sicilian, and she was crying. I go, "What are you crying for?" Your son stole people's goods. He's going to penitentiary. The bill comes due. You gotta go pay the bill. Don't you let them people see you cry.
What was the first job you did? Do you remember it?
No, man. There's so many.
How many did you do? You
Quite a few. Yeah.
decade? You're in this life decade or more?
Oh, without doubt.
No kidding. All jewels, most jewels,
Yeah, mostly just jewelry.
cars. Cars or
Once in a while, cars. They were easy. They're easy buck. Like somebody needs it. Let's say they bought a wrecked car that didn't have a salvage title, and let's say it's a Buick. Well, you go get another Buick, change the numbers, and they got a new car. So, you can grab yourself a quick couple thousand.
Wow.
But that was back then. I mean,
Right.
Today, with today's technology, you're not even going to take a match out of the store.
So you're still doing you're working full time,
Yeah, still.
and then weekends you're robbing and
or
pillaging,
at night,
or at nighttime.
Yeah. Little ride maybe to Canton, Akron, Cleveland. Do your magic act and come home.
No kidding.
Get up and go to work.
the job you did in Pennsylvania that put you in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
Do you remember that job?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shenango Valley Mall. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Jewelry store?
yeah.
What'd you get? A lot of
Nothing.
diamonds?
We didn't. We got the doors open. The alarm. They shut down the wrong alarm, and they surrounded the place. I got out the back door and run into the woods, and like 3-4 hours later, they caught me crossing 18. I went down the river and went to go across. And
Troopers get you or local?
No, it was local Hermitage. And when I come up, there was like 100 cars there, and put the rifle on me, and they played Barney Fife.
What'd you say? What'd you say?
I
to
just
them?
put my hands. I mean, I knew better. This is it. It's over. The lights out. So,
They get your crew too?
no. I'm the only guy that.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So you went in.
Yeah.
Leo's the opposite of Leo's the opposite of most of these guys, and they not most, but that turn. So you went in, you did the time, you
Without
come
question,
out.
yeah.
Those guys ever get
It's like I said.
pinched
I
later?
I went in myself. I come out myself.
Yeah.
That's how. And that's has to be your mentality. I'm a grown man. I knew what I was doing. I could have went GM and got a job. That's not what.
Hell, you had a job, right?
Yeah. So
You were making $505 an hour. That's a lot. You're making
well,
30,
back
40,
then,
50 bucks an
you
hour.
got to remember, the average car was like 3,100.
Right.
You get a brand new car.
So did those guys ever get pinched later on? Your crew?
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
Well, they a couple of them had died, natural causes, and a couple of them went away. But I believe God's a puppeteer. Everything happens for a reason, and then you sit back. Karma takes care of everything. You ain't got to do anything. Let karma do what they got to do, and eventually that did happen.
You come out on the other side. Was there a certain amount of liberty? Like, did you decide inside, when I get out, I ain't ever coming back? I'm done with that life?
That's the mentality, because when you see the people you were loyal to weren't loyal to you, and you thought, this isn't what
How do you mean?
screenwriter said life is like. It isn't. Life.
How do you mean when they weren't loyal? And
I don't think they would have. They would have given me up in a minute, probably.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it. They end up being rats anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
But they could never do what I'd done. They could never beat a man. And after I got out, I wouldn't even let them sit at my table. They couldn't. They walk in a restaurant, I'm going to have them come over to my table, because they didn't understand what loyalty and respect is. I did. I knew what the definition was. And there's a price to pay for that, But when I started looking at reality, all these tough guys and this guy and that guy, they're all rats. Every one of them were rats. I mean, when you look back, society made them to be something that they weren't, But I learned to live with it, and I'm a better person for it,
well, you feel like you're getting away with stuff, so then you're like kind of entitled, right? You're kind of
Well, exactly.
strutting around.
Sure,
Get
yeah.
your chest out.
Yeah, and then reality sets in. Once that sets in, then you really look at life and you say, wait a minute, let's change these chapters of this book we're writing.
When you come out, you have a certain amount of liberty to get away from that life because you knew you didn't turn or snitch on anybody. You were like, hey, I'm out. I don't owe you guys nothing.
Well,
Right.
Yeah, to tell you the truth, it's almost like alcoholism. You change your friends, you change where you go. You have to work at it. It isn't something that just comes natural. You have to change your environment, change where you go, change your mental thinking, and that's a job. You got to work at that. It just doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come because you were locked up. That's a bunch of bull. You got to want it, and if you want it, it can happen. And I always live by the thing: I don't back up and I don't give up. So I thought, I'm not giving up on Leo. I'm not going to back up on Leo, but I don't like that Leo. So I have to do something about that. Not anybody else, no bro guy, no wife, no. It has to be Leo to make that decision to change Leo. And quite frankly, I like this Leo that I have today.
I do too. I'll back up just a skosh. When you go in to the Pennsylvania, where was it at? Was the prison called?
Western Penitentiary.
Western
It's probably I probably stand corrected, but I think there's 3 with a wall: Leavenworth, Atlanta, and Western. And,
So you go in the pen, max security.
oh yeah, Supermax.
Was it similar to the feeling you had the day you went to Vietnam? I mean, was there any connection points between that survival and
I was a
prison
little
survival?
bit more fortunate. I had friends that knew friends that kind of helped out with the journey that I was going to take inside a prison. Because prison in itself, the real prison, not the one with these fake fences up. I'm talking about a man's prison. You do everything different. You talk different. You look different. You act different. I mean, and I was fortunate and blessed enough. I knew some guys, Italian guys that were in there. They kind of, paved the way for me. You don't do this, and this is why you don't do this. And it made it easy. But I think if I had to go in on my own, it would have been a tough battle for me, and I would have survived it. But I knew what I had to do. Like one good friend of mine said, "You don't have to stand tall in here, but you have to stand. So you have to let them know who you are." And we got through it. We're out and we're doing good.
Because of those friends, did you go in with a little bit of a reputation? Like, oh, that's Leo. This guy was, doing these jobs, and he's a tough guy kind of thing? Or
it's not the kind of reputation that you and I would think. It's more of a respect. We know this guy's a solid guy. We know he's okay to sit down, play cards with, talk with. And like I said, everything there inside a prison is a different world. You got to know what you're doing or what you're talking about, and you just don't sit down with anybody in prison and just talk to your life. I mean, you might talk about today's ball game or football game or base, and just the basics.
Keep it inside. You keep it
without
tight to the
question.
vest.
You keep it inside of you. Like even when you make parole, you don't come out to the yard and tell anybody you made parole, because there's guys in there doing life don't want to see you go home. Whether you think they like
Misery
you or not.
loves company.
Oh, without question.
Wow.
And it's a different mindset. It's like anything else. I adjusted my mind to high school, the war, prison. You do a different mindset. I've been blessed with being able to adjust my mind. To change that volume. So
You ever have anybody test you in there?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
And I stood my ground. And some of them were very tough, very dangerous guys. But I think it wasn't because they knew I could fight. They respected me, because they knew if this fight happened, I got cut or whatever, I'm not saying anything to anybody.
You didn't have to throw down.
No.
They were like,
Yeah.
they were like, hey, I want to test you, and you're like, bring it on.
Yeah,
and they were like, oh shit, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
So you're in there. Is the change? They close the doors, and now you're like, oh shit, I need to work on change, or does the change happen progressively over time while you're in there? Walk me through that. Was there somebody you met, a chaplain, or
Well, the first time you go in there, there's you got to remember there's 5 tiers going all the way up, and there's I think 100 and some cells. It's split up like 30 some and then 30 some on both sides, and you hear them doors clang. And it was the old type prison where you pull the bar and all the doors come open. So this was built way before Ohio State, and Ohio State's torn down. So that's how old Western Penitentiary was. And you go to stretch your arms out. So you have a bed, a desk, a toilet, and a sink there. And it's probably 6 foot in height, and I can't stretch my arms out. And reality sets in. The movies don't tell you about this part. You see the movie an hour and it's over with. They don't explain this part. And you're right. You start to do an inventory of your life. You start to, you look at things, you look at everything different, and you ask yourself a million times, how'd I get here? Where could I have turned that I couldn't have got here? And it's Leo's choice. Leo chose to go there. Leo paid the price. I don't feel sorry for Leo. I'm glad they locked him up, because being locked up, I got the Leo I got today. So I'm kind of glad they did that. I mean, I believe in every dark cloud has a silver lining, and today I'm enjoying that silver lining from that cloud.
What year did you get out?
95.
95.
Yeah, I got paroled, and then I stayed on paper till 2010.
Who's the first person you see when you get out? Where do you go? What do you do?
My son Anthony. Yeah, that was tough, But because I went in, he was like 2 years old, 3 years old. Yeah. So, and the one time I was in the hole.
Did he know you? Did he?
Yeah, he always knew Dad. But the one time I was in the hole, and he come to visit for Christmas, and they had me shackled, and I visited him by phone. I couldn't hug him or nothing. So, like I said, all of that sets in, and you thought, what I got, I deserved. I deserved to be locked up. I deserved the punishment. But he didn't deserve the punishment, what he got. And not having his father there, or my son Art, not having his dad there, that was a separate penalty in itself. You know what I mean? And like anything else, you learn to adjust. I mean, real quick. And I don't know if you can make up that time, but what you do is you just try to say, look, I'm going to take it from today, and we're going to move on. And that was part of my thought process of changing Leo. More so my 2 sons, Art and Anthony. Art's I think Art's 47 or 48, and Anthony's he's 32 now, and they're doing good. So
you get out in 95. It's a a little bit different of a world than when you went in. What'd you do? How did you make the decision, and what was the first thing you did to take that step to that next path?
Believe it or not, I was driving down 680, and I had to go to the parole officer. When you first get out, you got to go there and report in, and he gives you the do's and don'ts. And I see a friend of mine was working at the Teamsters construction. They were blacktopping 680. So I thought, let me take a shot. So I pull over to the side, and I go up, and I knew him through a friend of mine. And I said, hey, I'm Leo Connelly. I'm out now. I need a job. I'm on parole. Part of the condition is I got to go get a job. And he said, Leo, do you? I said, yeah, I have a withdrawal card. It was where you pay 50 cents. You put your card on hold in the Teamsters. And then for 50 cents, you pay and you get it out now. And then you pay your dues monthly. So what I would do is, he said, yeah. He said, we could use a guy. Can you drive the water truck? Hell, I didn't know how to drive the water truck, but I thought, I ain't passing this job up. So I said, yeah. He said, can you start tomorrow? I go, no, I can start today. So I called the parole guy up. I said, hey, I got a job here. Can I come up out? He said, yeah, come up when you're off, like 4:30. And he waited till I got up there, but I ended up getting the job right away. And what was funny, I had dress pants on, dress shoes, and the guy said, well, don't you want to go change? I said, the only thing I'm changing, I'm getting in that truck. So, and then they hired me, and I got a job. And believe it or not, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what I was doing. It was fun. So then, but the mindset was already there while I was in prison. I started thinking, I got to work on Leo, and I got to do something here for my sons. I did it more for my boys, but yeah. So that's where we're at today.
When did you take the purpose of being an advocate for veterans, like all the stuff you've been through, and then now you're working, you're getting yourself kind of back up on your feet, you're really establishing a relationship with your kids. When's the veteran aspect come?
Well, let me back up, and I'll bring you up to that part. I got to a point, I think it was 99, when I had there was no work. I couldn't find work in the Teamsters. Everything was shutting down. And what had happened is I run into a guy at a restaurant. And he said, Leo, did you ever sell food? I said, no. I said, but I'm the kind of guy, I'll challenge anything. So he said, I went over to Acme Steak and I got a job selling food. And I did a great job at it, so they made me a salesman. Eventually brought me as an executive thing to run the food industry, to sell to restaurants. And then I had a semi-heart attack. So that kind of put a hold on. I had open heart surgery done. I think it was like, I want to say 2001 or something. I had open heart done. Now, who wants to hire a guy, that's got a heart attack? Yeah. So I think I went to the post office to mail something, and I looked at a card that says, if you're a veteran, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, that's my shot. So I go and see if I can get some money. I'm laid off. I don't know where I'm going to go to work. And the guy says, he takes all my information. He said, did you ever file a claim for your stuff, PTSD and stuff? And I go, so from there until now, we filed the claim, 100% disabled. I had, many health issues. I've had 4 open hearts, God knows how many stents. I got a valve job. I mean, you name it. I got more stitches in me than on a suit. So I said, yeah. So I says, it's time. I was shocked at what we had coming as a veteran that I didn't know. So I thought, instead of being a guy to complain, how about being a guy that solves problems? So I joined the Disabled American Veterans, went through the chairs all the way up to vice, second vice, commander, and I become district commander of Canton, Akron, Youngstown. And I got involved, and I was shocked at what people didn't know, the little things, they can get them help. So I thought, look, I'm going to be the guy, the advocate that kicks that door in. You got to give me an answer. You got to find out why this person isn't getting a wheelchair, or why this. I just want to know the answer, and then I'll go fight it. And I've been successful because my volunteer work, my compassion for wanting to help in veterans, and I end up being commissioner of the Mahoning County Veteran Services for 3 years, and then my health, I had to retire from that. But I started seeing the good that was being done and go out there, and it's like a domino. You help one, and then the guy said, well, Leo, what do I owe you? You owe me, go help another veteran. And then it's like a domino. Everybody's helping everybody, and a lot of good come out of it. And it's like a storybook story. I mean, I couldn't believe, man, we're out here doing some good stuff, getting guys food. I mean, I started a food bank with Chapter 2. We fed 6,600 veterans. We went out and raised the money. We bought turkeys for guys at Christmas. I joined the Marine Corps League, even though I'm Army, and I raised $18,000. We bought 150 bikes. We bought toys for kids. I mean, it's just one good thing. God has blessed me with one good thing after another, and that's how I become a voice for veterans. You know, if you're not telling me a story and you did your due diligence and you need my help with something, I'm the guy. I may not know the answer, but I know what door to go to get the answer, and it works. In fact, this morning I was sitting talking to people that own some nursing homes to see what we can do about getting local nursing homes for veterans, and then teach them and let them get educated, and then we'll go to Washington and see if we can get some money to do this, do what we want to do. I think it's all positive. I think it's working. But the outcome of everything I'm doing is all positive, all good stuff. And that's what it's like an addiction with me. You know, the more I see the good that's being spread, the more I want to do it.
Is it better than the booze?
Pardon?
Is it better than the booze?
Oh, it's 10 times better. You know, God pays you back threefold. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I've had so many blessings. You can't believe. I mean, my children are healthy. I got a great wife who is
beautiful too.
Oh yeah, she's.
With all due respect, all right, I don't want to.
Yeah, I mean,
Doreen's beautiful, you know.
But here's the combination
family.
there. I put medicine in her coffee in the morning. I tell her Leo's a nice guy. And I've been doing that for 20 years, so it's working. But without her support, and her dad was 15 years military. With that support, Leo Connelly is the man he is today because of her. If it wasn't for Doreen, I think there was times I might have went left to center. And she's always there to give me that little crack and say, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. And 99% of the time she's right. You know, so I credit her with the Leo that I enjoy today, you know. But, yeah, so that's how I got with the veterans being the advocate.
Were you surprised that people didn't know? I didn't know this either, and obviously until a little bit. I mean, my family, they're combat vets. My grandfather's, combat vet.
Sure.
But a lot of times people don't talk about it. I'm sure you didn't talk about it. Were you surprised that people didn't know, and maybe even you didn't know, the mental effects that those things, that seeing that kind of action and having that kind of life and the self-medication carried with it? Because a lot of times, right, the homeless population, good percentage of them are veterans, which is very sad. The hero kind of mentality, or the tough guy mentality is, and I deal with this sometimes myself. I'm not a tough guy, but my wife said, "How you feel?" Yeah. I'm always great, right? But you don't really know, that. Were you surprised to learn some of that stuff about post-traumatic stress? It used to be post-traumatic stress disorder. Now it's just PTS, right? Post-traumatic stress.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah.
Well, they took I think DSM-4 or 5 took the D away, right? They ended up taking the disorder part of it. But were you surprised to find that out about yourself, and then also surprised that people don't even know? They don't even know that they're carrying this mental baggage with them that's making them or aiding to them acting out. Obviously, it was an act of choice, which I love when you say that. I don't think that can be said enough when people say, "Hey, I made the choice to do these things. I'm not making an excuse because of this, that, or the other."
But it's easy to use that excuse road.
Well, and it's a valid one too, because there's so much of that maybe people didn't deal with. Were you surprised people didn't know, and how much of that piece is education?
Well, and you're exactly right. You hit it on the head. I mean, it's education to me that got me rolling. I would go and get in a conversation maybe with a guy I knew was in combat, and we'd be talking about ABC, and I go, that's me. I'm going through the same thing. I'm feeling the things you're feeling. And then you talk to another guy, a combat guy, and you thought, maybe it's worth going to this group and listening, and maybe it'll help Leo learn how to deal with it. It's like if you're playing catch with somebody. If you tell me, Leo, put a glove on to catch that ball, maybe my hand won't sting. So I took that mentality, and it works. And then you got to be able to look in the mirror and criticize yourself. If, I heard Dr. Phil said it some time ago, and it stuck with me. If you can't acknowledge it, you can't correct it. So if I can't talk to Leo about Leo, there's no way I'm going to correct Leo. Some people sometimes cannot be honest with themselves. I'm an alcoholic. I went to prison. My wife used to get mad when I tell people this. I go, no, because then I want that person to make the decision. Do you want to sit at my table or do you want to go to another table? But I want you to know when you walk away, somebody says, oh, by the way, that guy's an alcoholic or that guy was in prison. You're going to know ahead of time with me. What you see is what you get. There's nothing hidden here. I don't hide anything. But that mentality helped me to be able, I can talk about it. You and I can discuss Leo's prison time, Leo's drinking, Leo's lifestyle. I couldn't do that 20, 30 years ago. I would never sit down and tell you about my war stuff until I got, for lack of a better way, it's fashionable today to talk about it, to get the help. I remember guys would never say, I got a mental problem. They heard of Woodside Hospital. They think, oh, my God, a guy's nuts. Today, we talk about traumatic brain injury. We talk about PTSD, shell shock, all the veterans and people go through. People that have never been in war have PTSD.
Yeah.
When I started speaking earlier, I tell, raise your hand if you remember when Kennedy died. Everybody would raise their hand. I go, that's PTSD. It's something, tragedy, good or bad, that stuck with you, and it doesn't go away. But you talk about it. So that kind of like put me on that road to education. Whether it's the war, whether it's life, whether it's divorces, whether it's drinking, let's talk about it. I'm sure some person, if you get enough people, have that solution that can help somebody. Like that's what we're doing here today. We're doing a session to say, look, if this helps a person, Two Ticks and a Dog production did this. We were part of it. We made a difference today. And if one person out there benefits from it, man, we did our job. I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, here's something you didn't talk about, though. You did, for many, many years, you didn't talk about being wounded in Vietnam, the incident with the stabbing and whatnot. And just recently, Leo was honored with a Purple Heart. He was recognized for his injuries that he sustained, and there was a bunch of nice news articles, and a lot of people have kind of asked too, like they didn't know what podcasting is, and I says it's all this stuff that you weren't able to read. Who you having on? I having Leo on. People that don't you. I said, well, he's look in the Vindicator or the Tribune, and he's been on the news, just recently about this Purple Heart. Oh well, I saw that. I found out about him in the newspaper. Well, you read a small microcosm of it, but that story is really impressive too. Tell me about it. How did that come about?
And I really owe it all to Herm Brewer, is the director of Trumbull County Veteran Services.
Awesome guy. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm proud to say I'm his friend. And
Likewise,
he also is a Purple Heart recipient.
Yeah.
And Congressman Tim Ryan. And what had happened was we had got together at the Trumbull County Veteran Services. When I say we, Congressman Ryan, Herm, and a couple other people. And we were going to attend one of those seminars where it's a mental thing. Tim Ryan, a program he wanted to...
like a mindfulness?
Sure.
Yeah.
And he wanted to introduce us to it. And I said, yeah, me and my wife will participate.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we meet over there, and we didn't have enough to do the class, so we're going to try it again probably in May. But everybody went around the room and told a little story about what had happened, how you did blah, and so on. So it got to my story, and I told the story of how I killed the Viet Cong and took the veteran to, and I'd gotten stabbed, I gotten wounded. And he said, did you ever get a Purple Heart for that? And I go, no.
Who asked you, Herm or Tim?
Congressman Ryan. And I said, no. And he goes, and I told him, I said, I applied in 2004, and they turned it down, and I never pursued it. And he said, well, we need to pursue it. So then we got the ball, Congressman Ryan got the ball rolling. Herm did the package, and I'm telling you, this guy's a Picasso when it comes to sitting down. Honest to God, he's sitting down, and I mean, he found words I couldn't look up in a dictionary. I mean, it's just, he put it so good together, and you kind of say, hell, if this doesn't work, then I know we went to 100%. And then Congressman Ryan actually went there in Washington and explained what had happened. Well, from that, there was like 4 or 5 others that got the Purple Heart under my same conditions. If you didn't go back and the protocol was if it wasn't registered with the Red Cross, they didn't award it to you. Well, they know that there's battle out there, there's war out there that doesn't go by the book and the protocol. It's war. So when I was awarded it, I felt pleased to know that somebody believed in Leo Connelly, and that you're given the respect and recognition you need, and I owe it all to Congressman Tim Ryan, and I owe it to Herm Brewer. Those two there together, I mean, it's like I'd go to battle with those two any day of the week.
Likewise, yeah. Both of them, awesome.
And I'm proud to say they're both personal friends of mine, and it's an honor to have their friendship.
For sure. Yeah. Likewise, I echo the sentiment. I don't want to pass this up to ask this question, though. After all that time, why was it important for you and the other wounded combat veterans to have the Purple Heart? What was the press in 2004 to do that?
It's back to what we had talked about earlier in this program. Your life's a book, and there's chapters. And I felt in my heart and in my mind there was one chapter that had a void. I needed to close this out. And by doing that, it closed that chapter of Vietnam. I can say, I can put my head down on the pillow and I can rest now. We've completed that portion of it. Now, there's some steps they want to take to do a medal upgrade and all that. That's secondary. That's the cherry on the cake. But right now, I can say I can actually close out that chapter of my life, and that was the void that was missing. That the story get told. And I hope by my story, there's other veterans that deserve that respect. I hope that I helped someone else. Don't ever give up. Don't back up. Don't give up. Keep going. If you believe in what you're doing, it'll happen.
Well, I love that you use that word again, respect. And I think that, because it's almost like and please correct me if this is not, that Purple Heart kind of, you knew you deserved it.
Sure.
But to be recognized kind of validated for other people.
Sure.
And I think maybe that connection, like, hey, you're going to go talk to this guy and he's reading about you before. He sees that you're a Purple Heart recipient. He knows the sacrifice and the wounds that you carried, physical wounds that you carried from your service. You don't have that, maybe he's less likely to open, well, you don't know. You didn't get wounded, that kind of thing. Is that
he knows,
part of it too?
He knows in his heart and in his mind, you spilled blood for your country.
Yeah.
So when he has a Purple Heart on and he's looking at a guy with a Purple Heart, that's how he views it. He goes, this guy spilled his blood. I spill my blood. I can talk to him. We can sit down and have this conversation. And it's kind of what you're right. The word validated does validate it.
Man, that's some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Brandon is... I know Brandon's speechless over there because he has not had the privilege yet to sit down and hear this amazing story.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, it just comes down to I've had friends out of high school, and I know their stories with going to war, coming back, but they hear it from you. I also had a grandfather that was in World War II, and he didn't talk about it. And so I know that he was there, but it's good to hear your story, because I think like I said, I think the major thing with your story is what you do now, and it's awesome. It's amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. And I just never want it to be forgotten.
Have you seen this guy? This guy ain't ever quitting.
No. I don't ever want that to be forgotten, that, when you come back from war, I don't want to ever have to experience that in my lifetime. And,
Well, you're exactly right. And see, what this does, this teaches the public the price of freedom, and then it helps the veteran that maybe has never talked about it. So hopefully what we're doing here today, besides the veteran, I want more so the public to know, and I think it's working. I think the respect of today's military is completely night and day when it was my day. And I think by what we're doing, we're educating everybody. Gee, I didn't know that went on, or I didn't know that. Right. And you'd be shocked once you, whether it's whatever it is in life, once you get educated about it, there's no to understand it better. That's why I'm successful when I come out here to raise money for veterans. I tell them, just don't give your money. I want you to know where your money's going, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and I find out the response is phenomenal. But you're right. I enjoy telling my story again and again if it helps somebody. And like I said, if we can get one person out of this thing we did today, man, we hit a home run.
Absolutely.
You got a couple right here. And Brandon brought up a great point I want to touch on. You mentioned your grandfather. Did you ever ask your grandpa, hey, what'd you do?
He passed away when I was about 10.
Okay.
So
you didn't get a chance to rate?
I was just learning about war.
And you probably wanted to talk about it to him. Both my grandfathers and some other family members were combat vets in Vietnam. My one grandfather was in Normandy and was on the German campaign, but he died before I was born. My maternal grandfather was in the Philippines, and I knew he had seen but I was I never. He died when I was 35 years old. He was the co-best man in my wedding. He's one of my best friends in life, and I never really because he never offered it up. But I was always kind of afraid to ask those things. And so you being that conduit and being so open, your courage to talk about these things is fantastic because I think it may help people like myself and Brandon who didn't, it helps you better understand and connect the dots. And specifically to you, if Leo Connelly, who went through all this ups and downs and challenges and changes in his life, if he could make that active choice to change, man, anybody can do it. You didn't get out of prison and make an excuse. I find the story fascinating how you're driving to the parole officer and on the side of the road. I'm going to see if I can get a job. The first day he's out of prison. Sometimes people make excuse that you don't feel good or you this, that, or the other. You went right to it to actively pursue that change, and that courage, man, it sticks with you, which is again. But so happy to have you as a guest today.
Going back to people that want to ask like their grandfather or uncle or whoever about the war, a lot of them are scared because they're afraid the grandfather may have pain bringing it up and talking about it.
That's true.
Where now this production and different things that we do in the community, they're starting to see. Maybe I'll ask Grandpa, hey, what's that medal for? What did you do? And now the grandfather's proud and saying, I was a combat soldier. I did this. Where before, if you went and told somebody, I killed somebody, I cut a throat, they'd walk away from you.
Yeah.
Today, it's viewed much differently, and I don't think there's as much pain there. I think, like I said, and I'm repeating myself, it's more fashionable to sit down and talk about it today than it was.
Well, there's therapeutic benefits.
Sure.
There's therapeutic. If you talk about it and get it in the open, then you can deal with it.
I benefit from everything I do. When I go out and do volunteer work, you don't think I get a threefold good done to me? Or when I'm sitting here talking to you, don't think I'm going through therapy? I mean, selfishly, I kind of take care of Leo by doing this because this is another day that I can say, hey, man, I had some good thoughts today. We did some good today. So, man, this works.
Leo, thank you for your time.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you for your service to the community.
Thank you.
And I don't think I've ever said this to you. Welcome home.
Yeah, thank you.
And I appreciate you, and I love you, man. And I hope you come back to talk more with us sometime.
I love you, too, and what you're doing as far as educating society and educating the public, I commend you for it, Brandon. I enjoyed your company.
It was very nice meeting.
And I think we need to do more of this. I think we need to do more education, whether it's the veteran subject or society subject. Let them know what we're doing out here. But I thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
Documentary or
podcast?
Podcast.
The ProdCast.
Yeah. Right. What's it called?
The ProdCast.
ProdCast.
Yeah.
Don't get me too educated now.
No.
Yesterday I couldn't spell broadcast. Now I is one.
That's it.
Leo, thank you so much.
Hey, you're welcome.
Brother.
Love you. I love
you too, man. And that's it. That's a wrap. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to episode 2 of the ProdCast. We hope you are as inspired as we are. We hope that Leo's story can reach one person and can help those who may be struggling with addiction, maybe struggling with anger, maybe they are veterans and they're self-medicating and they're just not really sure what to do, or maybe you're listening to this from a jail cell or a prison cell. Listen, Leo was in that same spot that you were at. He turned his life around. He is, when I say this, this is probably understated. He is one of the greatest advocates for veterans in Northeast Ohio. Leo, thanks again for being on the show. This episode of the ProdCast was brought to you by MDI Studios. They work on our website and make it really cool looking, and that's Brandon's company. Brandon sitting second chair today again with Leo. Brandon, thank you so much. MDI Studios, they can be found at mdistudios.com. This episode was also underwritten by Two Ticks and the Dog Productions. We provide production and marketing and media buying and everything under the sun. You can find us at twotixandthedog.com or on our YouTube channel if you search Two Ticks and the Dog, or on Facebook at Two Ticks and the Dog. We really appreciate your time today and listening. We hope you will join us for episode 3, our next guest, who is a retired writer and marketing exec, was a former marketing director of Money and Fortune magazine. He's a very interesting guy. He had a few early startups, internet startups in the early day of the internet, and he has been a community activist. He has been a blogger and a writer, has run for political office, and he is going to provide some insight into how our community where we live in Warren, Ohio, and the surrounding areas, how's our community going to recover from GM moving out? That's a big thing in the news today. It'll probably be a bunch of political, be a political issue moving forward with our upcoming elections. And he will give some insight. He's done some research into this, give some insight in how our community can reposition itself and reinvent itself after GM has closed, so that we can market and we can provide some economic development stimulus in our community. It's going to be a great show. We hope you listen. We hope you love it, and we hope you share it. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay electrified. We'll catch you next time on the ProdCast.